When you go into your IELTS writing test, you want to be confident that you can impress the examiner and get a high score. In this video, I'm going to show you some top vocabulary for IELTS writing so that you can do just that. Hi there everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Grace. I'm an expert IELTS teacher and academic manager at Swoosh English. Now in this video today, I would like to introduce you to some really useful vocabulary that you can use to get a high score in your IELTS writing test. And I'm also going to go over exactly what the examiner is looking for in terms of vocabulary and how you can incorporate an efficient vocabulary learning practice into your IELTS preparation. Let's start by talking about exactly what the examiner is looking for in terms of vocabulary. Remember, if you know what the examiner wants to see, it's going to be much easier for you to get a high score. So first up, they are looking for range. So can you use a good range of different vocabulary? Can you use synonyms to avoid repetition? Next up is appropriacy. So are the words and phrases that you are selecting appropriate to the topic and the context? Next, we have precision. So when you are selecting certain words, are you using them correctly in the sentence? Are they spelt correctly? Is everything as it should be? Now, when thinking about what the examiner is looking for in your writing, it is important, of course, to refer to the assessment criteria or the band descriptors. So I'm going to show you now the band descriptor for a 7, just to have a look and see what you would need to do in order to get that score. Now we are going to look at the description for a band score 7, but of course you may be aiming slightly higher or even lower than this, but this is just to give you a good idea of what a 7 would look like. Firstly, we have the resources sufficient to allow some flexibility and precision. So generally the range of vocabulary that you're using is used flexibly and precisely. There is some ability to use less common and/or idiomatic items. Remember, you are not expected to fill every sentence with an idiom. This, of course, will not get you a high score, but if you're able to throw in 1 or 2, this would be sufficient. An awareness of style and collocation is evident, though inappropriacies occur. So you've used some collocations and you show an awareness of appropriate style, but you can still make a few errors in terms of appropriacy and still get a band score 7. And there are only a few errors in spelling and/or word formation, and they do not detract from overall clarity. So to be getting a band score 7, you really need to aim for as few errors as possible in terms of spelling and word formation. If you do make any errors, as long as they don't detract from the overall clarity of your message, you might still be able to achieve this band score. So there we go, we've familiarized ourselves with exactly what the examiner is looking for. Now we can move on to have a look at some specific examples of vocabulary. The next 2 points are concerning the impact of your errors. So firstly, your errors regarding spelling, and secondly, word formation. So how many errors there are, but also the effect that this has on the overall communication of your message. And finally is your ability to select and use appropriate collocations and idiomatic language. So generally being able to use idioms appropriately can help to push your grade to a higher band score. But remember, you need to use them appropriately and naturally for the context and topic of your essay. As you're probably already aware, we have 2 quite different writing tasks for the IELTS academic exam, and the vocabulary items that you use will probably be different for both. I'm going to begin by going over some essential vocabulary for IELTS writing task 1. Please note this is by no means an exhaustive list. There is always more vocabulary that you can learn, but let's get started with a few essentials. Here we go then with some essential vocabulary for writing task 1. Let's look first at describing a rising trend, so a trend increasing. So we've got increase, rise, climb, surge, grow, go up or soar. Now, some of these could be used as nouns. For example, increase and rise, you could say, like the example here, there was a noticeable rise in the number of students opting for online courses. Or if you wanted to use the verb, just make sure that you are using the correct tense. So in this sentence, we might say, the number of students opting for online courses rose, and then say the time period. So if you're using the noun, that's fine. If you're using the verb, just make sure that you change the tense if needed. Let's look now at describing falling trends or decreasing trends. We of course have decrease, decline, drop, fall, plummet, or we could simply say go down. Once again, some of these could be nouns, some of them could be used just as the verb. Make sure that you are familiar with how to use them. For example, we've got the sales of traditional print media witnessed a steady decline during 2015. So here we're using it as a noun, but decline can also be used as a verb. So it could say the sales declined, using it in the past tense, during 2015. Notice as well that I'm using some adjectives to describe the type of decline. So this was a steady decline. I'm going to give you some more examples of these in just a moment. Next, we've got fluctuations, so trends that go up and down. We've got fluctuate as a verb. We can also use it as a noun, fluctuation. We have vary or variation, and we also have oscillate. So there was a considerable variation in consumer preferences. So here I've decided to use the noun form once again, and I've also given it a nice adjective to indicate that it wasn't just a variation, but it was quite a large or notable or considerable variation. So it's really nice if you can pop those adjectives in there just to expand upon the description that you're giving. Describing stabilization, so when something flattens off or plateaus, you could say. We have plateau, remain stable, level off, and of course stabilize. So you can see in the example here, we've used stabilize, the verb. After a period of rapid growth, the company's profits stabilized. Or if you wanted to use the word plateau, you would say reached a plateau. Okay, so there are some different ways of describing stabilization. Next, when we want to describe a large increase or a large decrease, now this is where those nice adjectives come in, which can really enhance your writing and enhance the description that you're giving. So we could say a sharp increase, a significant decrease, a dramatic rise, or a steep fall. So words like sharp, significant, dramatic, steep, use those to describe the type of change that you're talking about. See the example here, there was a sharp increase. So I mean that it didn't just increase, but it increased very, very rapidly. So these are the types of descriptive words that the examiner is going to be looking for. And then of course we might want to describe a gradual change. So we might just say a gradual increase, even a slow decline or incremental change, meaning it went up in small amounts. Look at the example here. I've said the temperature in the region has seen a gradual increase. Now, this is nice when you have to make that statement giving an overview, perhaps of a graph or something that you are describing the overall movement. Was it gradual? Was it slow? Make sure you're using these words to really add that element of description. We might want to describe similarities. So we've got likewise, similarly, in the same way, or comparable. Make sure that you know exactly how to use these in the sentence so that your use of them is precise. In this example, I've said similarly, both countries experienced an increase in GDP over the last quarter. So instead of just saying both countries experienced an increase, we can throw in that word similarly, and that's going to increase your score for vocabulary. And we might also want to describe differences. So we've got things like in contrast, on the other hand, whereas, while, or conversely. We might also want to give a specific amount that was higher or lower. Remember, when you're using these comparative adjectives, we need to use than. Higher than, lower than, more than, or less than. So you can see in the examples here, I've used while, And I've also, in the second sentence, used comparison, higher than. So this is structure and vocabulary that you really do need to get familiar with, because it's very likely that you will have to make comparisons, and it's important that you are able to use appropriate vocabulary to describe both similarities and differences. Now let's talk about IELTS Writing Task 2. Of course, you're not going to know which vocabulary you want to use before you see the topic. Your essay could be on a variety of topics, and the vocabulary that you select will largely depend on the topic. However, I've put together a list of 10 words that I think are versatile enough to use in almost any essay. So let's take a look at those top 10 words and see how they can help improve your IELTS writing. So here's my list of 10 words to impress the examiner in writing task 2. First up, we have conducive, which is an adjective, meaning something that contributes to or promotes a particular result or condition. Take a look at this example. Creating a conducive environment for learning is essential in schools. Now you can see that this word could be slotted into almost any kind of context where you're talking about something positive, something where you want to talk about promoting a particular result, a particular condition. So here we have our first word, conducive. Ubiquitous, another adjective meaning something that appears or is found everywhere. This is a really great word to use if you get a topic on, let's say, social media, smartphones, technology, something that appears all throughout society. Look at this lovely example. Smartphones are now ubiquitous in modern society. Lovely use of the word there, nice versatile word that you could use in almost any essay. To alleviate or lessen the impact of something undesirable, we have the word mitigate, which is a verb. This is a really, really useful verb if you are doing a problem and solution essay. So if you want to talk about solutions or ways to alleviate or lessen the impact of something, you might say mitigate. For example, governments must implement policies to mitigate the effects of climate change. Lovely use of that word there, mitigate. Another adjective for you, contentious. It might be that you get an IELTS topic on something that's a little bit controversial. It won't be something super controversial, but you might be able to throw in this word here as a way of describing something that's likely to cause disagreement, controversy, or dispute. For example, the issue of implementing stricter immigration policies has remained contentious, sparking debates over its humanitarian implications. So another nice versatile word there. Exacerbate, a verb meaning to make something worse. If you are already talking about a negative situation and you exacerbate it, it means you make something that's already bad even worse. So you might get a topic, for example, in this sentence here is talking about lack of affordable housing in urban areas has exacerbated the problem. So if you're talking about a problem solution essay, exacerbating the problem, that's a nice little phrase that you can use. Pervasive, another adjective for you, something that is widespread or present throughout an entire area of domain. Again, if you get an essay perhaps on social media, use of smartphones, technology, AI, something that's becoming widespread or becoming really popular, you could say the pervasive influence of technology, for example. Inextricably, here we have an adverb, and this is when we want to talk about a situation where two or more things are so closely connected that it is impossible to separate them. So a collocation that's commonly found here, inextricably linked. When two things are inextricably linked, it means they are very, very closely connected. As you can see in the example here, economic prosperity and quality of education system. They are inextricably linked. Nuanced. So here is an adjective. Now, nuanced means having subtle variations in meaning, expressing fine distinctions, or having a sophisticated understanding of a situation. So the use of this word will depend on the context, but if you take a look at my example sentence, addressing complex global issues requires a nuanced approach. So here the word nuanced is being used to mean a sophisticated understanding of a situation. So this, again, you can see is quite a versatile word that could be used in the context of almost any essay topic. Invariably, another adverb here, meaning always, without exception, in every case or on every occasion. So in my example here, I say in the face of environmental challenges, the role of sustainable practices is invariably crucial. So sometimes you can really improve or how impressive your sentence is by throwing in an adverb like this. So instead of just saying it's crucial, you can say it's invariably crucial. And in this way, we're demonstrating our lexical resource. Pragmatic, another adjective, meaning dealing with issues or problems in a practical and sensible way. For example, governments need to adopt pragmatic policies, meaning practical, sensible policies. This is another word that could fit to many different contexts and is a useful one to know. So those are my 10 words that you can use in IELTS Writing Task 2 to improve your score for lexical resource. And don't forget that these types of vocabulary items can also be really useful for IELTS speaking, especially part 2 and 3, where you will be expected to demonstrate a broader range of vocabulary. So if you make an effort to learn those words, you can use them both in your writing and speaking tests. And I really do hope that you find those useful. Now I'm going to end with just a few tips on learning and revising vocabulary, because of course, watching this video is great, but how can you make sure you remember those words we looked at today? Well, the first one is simple. Keep a list and review it regularly. Every time you encounter a new piece of vocabulary, write it down in a list. Make sure that you say the part of speech, so noun, verb, adjective, adverb. Write a definition and write an example sentence. Review that list on a weekly basis. My next piece of advice is to actually use the vocabulary. Get plenty of writing practice and use some of the words that you've been learning. Your teacher can give you feedback on whether you've used them correctly. It's important that you practice using these words in your practice writing tests before you actually do the real thing, just to make sure you're using it correctly. My final piece of advice is to make sure you read as widely as possible. Reading is one of the best ways that you can improve your range of vocabulary. You're going to come across new words and phrases all the time, so read plenty of different texts and don't forget to write down all of your new vocabulary in your vocabulary list. Now, of course, the most important thing here is that you know exactly how to use all of these words and phrases. So my advice to you is to go away and get plenty of practice. Do lots of practice writing tasks, try to use a range of vocabulary, and make sure you're getting expert feedback from your IELTS teacher on your use of vocabulary. If you can be comfortable using all of these different vocabulary items in practice, then you're going to get a nice high score when you do your IELTS exam for real. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, everyone. I hope you found it useful. If you're looking for more expert IELTS support, please do head on over to our website, www.swooshenglish.com, and take a look at our IELTS courses. They include everything that you need to get you prepared for your IELTS exam in the best way possible. We have writing corrections, mock exams, live classes, and so much more. So please do check out how Swoosh English can help you. Happy studying, everybody, and I will see you soon for more IELTS videos.